That's about it. Thank you all very much. And now we're going to hear from our guest speaker, Matt Cartwright, who is running in the 17th Congressional District. Monroe is divided now between two congressional districts, the 10th, which Phil is running for, and the 17th, where Matt is running for. And if you're totally confused about that, also on the table over there is this chart, which you find your precinct and you look across and you'll find out whether you vote for Matt or Phil or Mike or Liz or Maureen. So there's charts over on that table if you don't know who you're going to be voting for. Matt is a lawyer. He practiced for 24 years. He's from Moosic. He's married to a fellow lawyer. He represented people against the big corporations, and he wants to be able to continue doing that in Congress. He doesn't believe that the middle class should support and subsidize rich people so that they can pay less money, and he doesn't believe that corporations should be allowed to create all kinds of damage and get away with it. Matt?
I just have one question. Who's fired up? Who's ready to go? Let me hear it. Fired up! Fired up! Fired up! Fired up! Ready to go! That's more like it. Thank you, Chairwoman Ann. Thank you, members of the Monroe County Democratic Committee, Commissioner McCool, MC Gratz. Love your jokes. Former state representatives John Sintrod, Joe Battisto, Tim Sype, current candidate for the Senate. Tim and I have become friends on the campaign trail. Current Representative Mike Carroll, we got to know each other. Phil Scolo, we see a lot of each other, Phil and I do. Liz Forrest and Maureen Madden, wonderful candidates. I'd love to hear both of them speak, I really do. Thanks to all of you, and thanks especially to the woman here in the high heels. Yes, that's Mary and Monroe Cartwright. Stand up, Mary. That's all she looks nice, but she is one of the toughest trial lawyers in northeastern Pennsylvania, and she's had a lot of bad people for lunch on the witness stand. Well, I'm here to tell you, I really appreciate your support. We did meet 9 months ago. You're right, Liz, and we met at the Monroe County Democratic Committee, and I got a chance to start getting to know those of you on the committee, and I see so many of you here tonight, and I value you as my friends, and I look forward to working with you and for you in the Congress of the United States. But I'm here to tell you, we have a job to do. We're the Democrats, remember? We're the Democrats. We're the ones who need to get fired up and ready to go because people are counting on us. I have another question for you. Who, and by the way, I'll suggest the answer. The answer is we will. Who's going to protect Social Security and Medicare from the Republicans that want to ruin those things? We will. Who's going to protect collective bargaining for laboring Americans in this country? We will. Who's going to protect fair trade agreements instead of just give the store away free trade agreements? Who is it? We will. We're the ones with the Democrats. Who is going to stick up for veterans' benefits? I think Liz mentioned it. Do you know these Republicans, this Ryan budget wants to cut veterans' benefits by 13%. Can you imagine that? I can't believe they're willing to say that out loud, that they're going to turn their backs on veterans. You know, here tonight we have Chris Hurley. Chris, where are you? Chris, you know Chris's wife, Teresa, a wonderful Democrat, but maybe you don't know that Chris's uncle was Gino Murley, who those of us who live in Lackawanna County, we honor that name because Gino Murley was a recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor for what his efforts were in World War II, and you can't say the name of Murley in Lackawanna County without inducing reverence. Thank you. And so who's going to do it? Who's going to stick up for veterans benefits in this country? That's right, we will, because the other side isn't going to do it. Who is going to stand up for voting rights in this country? You know, we're against this party that believes in deregulation, but they want to regulate voting all of a sudden. How nuts is that? Who's going to stand up for the environment? Who's going to stand up to the fracking companies that want to wreck the Delaware River water basin? That's right, we will. I will, and all of us will together. Who's going to stand up and fight for education in this country? How else can anybody achieve the American dream other than through education? That's how Marion and I did it. We didn't do it by inheriting money. We did it the old-fashioned way. We went to school, we went through as much education as we could get, and we believe in that, and we're doing that for our kids, and we believe that this government in the United States needs to beef up education, not cut back on it. I have an opponent in this race who wants to eliminate the Department of Education. Imagine that. Head Start, everything. So, who is going to stand up for balancing the budget in a way that doesn't do it on the backs of the middle class? Who is it? That's right, we're the Democrats. Remember? We stand up for the working families and the middle class. We're not for the 1%. We're not for the 47%. We're for the 100%. You know, Joe Biden has become a friend to Marion and me. We've seen them a fair amount on the campaign trail. And one thing that Joe has said, that I'm sure a lot of you have heard, is don't talk to me about your values. Don't talk to me about your values. Show me your budget. Show me your budget and I'll tell you about what your values are. That's what Joe Biden said. I love it. Who's going to stand up for President Barack Obama's health care law? Who's going to do it? You're darn right we will. We're going to stick up for the people with the pre-existing condition. We're going to help out the women seeking preventative health care. We're going to stick up for health care for the young people living at home. We're going to do that because we're the Democrats. Who's going to do it? And who's going to stand up for civil rights in this country, for God's sakes? Who's going to do it? Marion and I went to the Democratic National Convention a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And because I've been actively raising money for other Democratic candidates, including my great friend Phil Scolo, and because we've got to get the ball over the goal line, we've got to win the House back. And because of that, we got invited to a special luncheon, Marion and I did. And who was there as the main speaker, and we got to meet, and I was so proud to meet one of my American heroes, Congressman John Lewis, from the 5th Congressional District of Georgia. If you don't know who John Lewis is, he's a congressman from the 5th District in Georgia, and he was one of the original Freedom Riders. And he rose and he spoke to us at that luncheon, and he said, you know, this is something of a homecoming for me here in Charlotte. 51 years ago, in 1961, the year I was born, by the way, John Lewis was in Charlotte. And he was there with the Freedom Riders. And he was there to protest and to lobby and agitate for civil rights in this country. And what happened to him? He got his head beat in. He had his head cracked open by thugs in Charlotte, North Carolina, right there where we were having the convention. And he said, this is a reunion for me. This is a homecoming to Charlotte 51 years later, my entire lifetime later. And he said, I wanted to tell you about something. Maybe some some of you have heard this story because he did mention it at the convention. But he told us there at that luncheon, after about 30 years after that happened, one of his attackers, one of his assailants, called him up in his Congressional office in Washington, D.C. And he identified himself as somebody who had been involved in the attack in Charlotte. And he said, "I'd like to come see you," if you can believe that. And John Lewis is a peace-loving man. And he said to him, "Yes, you can come." And the guy says, "May I bring my wife?" He brought his wife. And he got there, and he confessed to John Lewis. He said, "I was one of those who beat you up, cracked your head open, left you battered and bleeding in the streets of Charlotte. I was among those who did that to you. And I'm here to confess to you and to ask your forgiveness." And the man stood up, and he was crying, and the man's wife was crying, and John Lewis stood up, and he was crying too. And he embraced the both of them, and he forgave. That's an American story, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that touched my heart. I hope it touched yours, and I hope it reminds you of who we are. We're the Democrats. We are the people who make stories like that possible, because we are the ones who stood up for civil rights in 1961 in Charlotte. We are the ones who stood up for everything that John Lewis stands for. We are the ones who pushed through the Voting Rights Act in 1964, and it's the party opposing us that opposed all of those things. Not just civil rights, voting rights. They opposed Medicare, they opposed Social Security, they opposed all of it. And by God, they oppose this health care law, and they swear up and down every day that they'll repeal it. And I tell you, people like Phil Scolo and I will go down to Congress and we'll defend that law if that's the last thing that we do. So let's get to work. Let's elect our great state representative candidates. Let's elect our great state senatorial candidates. Let's elect my friend Eugene DePasquale as Auditor General. Let's elect our friend Kathleen Kane from Scranton as the first female, the first Democrat Attorney General in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So she can immediately open up her inquest into the governor and find out what did he know and when did he know it. Let's elect Bob Casey, and by God, let's re-elect my friend Barack Obama and Joe Biden to the White House so that they can continue the wonderful, wonderful work that they've done for this country and lead us